Okay, so today we're going up to Rob's Dyno service. Talked to Dan yesterday. He's going to be doing some work on a Victory. I believe he said it was a head replacement. And whoa! And we're caging it today. I'm in my 2015 Dodge Challenger SXT, little V6. It's my daily driver. Drive it all year round in the snow. We got plenty of snow on the ground. And it's cold and miserable. That's why I'm caging it up to RDS today. So a little bit about Victory too. Victory motorcycles, I believe it was 1998 they came out. First production year was 1999. And in January of 2017, just because they really couldn't capture a large portion of the market on cruising bikes, they stopped production and they put all of their efforts into the Indian brand. Now, Polaris purchased the Indian brand in 2011, and so they were just going to put all of their efforts into the Indian brand. So just bringing you some extra content, some Victory content. RDS works on virtually any kind of motorcycle. Actually, they work on almost anything. Getting a text here. Yeah, okay. So we're going up. I talked to Dan yesterday. So this might be a 2-day shoot. He said he was going to get started on it today. I'm not sure exactly what's involved in replacing one of the heads on a Victory, or if he's doing both. I don't know. But whatever's going on in the shop, we're going to go ahead and get some footage of it. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, a little change of plans today. We're not going to be doing anything on the Victory. He's got a customer that came in, just had a big bore kit done at one of the dealerships, and came here to get tuned, and they realized he's got a blown head gasket. And this is a fresh big bore kit, and he's going to start it up. He says you can hear it when you start it up. I can already see just a little bit of right here, so we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, we got the backfire right out of the head gasket.
That's it, and then after that,
yeah, I got a good backfire right out of the little bit of a puff right out of the head gasket there, so got that on video. Not good. All right, so I don't want you to think I was talking bad about the place that actually did the work on this bike. It's a beautiful bike, by the way, but when Dan called them, they actually asked Dan if he could just take care of it. And I mean, they're stepping right up to the plate and are going to cover it. But since Dan's got the bike here, they just asked him if he could do the work. So, and they're going to take care of it. So Dan's going to, we're going to tear it down, take a look, and replace that head gasket. Like I said, you can see right here, just a little bit of discoloration I just wiped off with my finger. And that's exactly where it was spitting. And you could actually see that when he started it up cold. After the first start, Dan said it's fine after that, but it does have a blown head gasket. So they'll get the head gasket all taken care of, and then Rob will be able to tune it for the big bore kit. So the tear down is continuing. Exhaust is off, intake's off. Well, I should say the breather's off. He's getting ready to remove the intake. And as you can see, there's a little bit of oil blow by coming from the breathers. This is pretty typical. And then we'll get into there and see exactly what happened to that head gasket. All right, getting a little bit deeper down to the rocker boxes. And if I haven't said this before, most of the videos that we're doing, they're not DIY type videos. We're not going to show you how to do something. We're just going to document as things are being done and just give you an idea of what some of the stuff that you need to do when you're working on a bike. Just basic general mechanical stuff. They're all loose?
I don't think these were tight to full torque.
All right, so we get some loose head bolts. And that,
doesn't mean
Dan, this rear one here, wow, that's things, you barely touched it. It's finger tight.
Yeah.
So there could have been an issue with the torque on the head bolts. I say head bolts. What I should say is head nuts, because they are actually just shank nuts that go down onto a stud. So that could have been the problem. But once we get the heads off, we'll come back and we'll take a little bit of video, take a look at the pistons. This does have a 107 big bore kit in it. S&S. It's got the S&S cylinders. So, all right, we'll see what happens when the heads come off. So here's one of this is the culprit right here. And you can see where it's all burnt around it because it probably wasn't torqued to the right value. And like I said, when Dan put the socket on it, it was like loose. So there you go. And there's the head removed. And you can see,
well, I will,
right here where it's been
if I see John today,
puffing past the gasket, and you can also see where there's a little bit of buildup here. So the owner probably did, well, the recommended 500 miles before he brought it in for a tune. However, when it was cold, it was spitting right here. So you can definitely see that.
Yep.
And if we look down into the cylinder,
yep, absolutely.
that's the S&S 107 big bore.
Hey, do you have a gift certificate book in the office?
All right, so as we look at the gasket, you can see that little bit of shiny spot right there, and that's where it was pissing through. You can see just a little bit of a difference in the gasket there. You get it just over the floor so you get a good look at it, good focus on it. So, improperly torqued head nuts. And again, this is the only, like I said, it's a long shank nut type thing that goes onto a stud, but this one is burnt. This was the outside rear on the back cylinder, and you can see where it was burnt pretty good. All the rest of them are nice and shiny. So, and Dan's checking the cylinder to make sure everything's good.
Yuck. Clean that all up. Doesn't look bad.
You forgot to take out the one you snugged up. The snug one. So this is, yeah, at least it wasn't a catastrophic failure where there was a problem with the head or a problem with the cylinder. It was just the not being torqued correctly, and it blew out the head gasket, which is probably a good thing, because you might have ended up with a catastrophic failure when Rob put it on the dyno for the tune. It could have been a major issue And if you look down in there, that's the front cylinder. And you can see there's a little bit more carbon on the front than there was in the rear. And it was running a break-in tune that Rob had put in it for him to ride it until he got about 500 miles on it so they could do the full tune. So where we're at now, Dan's removed all the studs. He's used a thread chaser, cleaned out all of the threaded holes for the studs, and now he's reinstalling the studs, torquing them down to spec. And then things are going to be going together pretty quickly after that. So that's where we're at this point. Everything is looking good. No damage to the cylinders, no damage to the pistons, no damage to the heads. And it could have been really bad if it went on the dyno with those head bolts being as loose as they were. All right, and it's going back together. Dan, if there's anything I could do to help, just say the word.
Will do.
But, he's sliding the rear jug on, and it looks like he's got it. Dan always makes everything look so easy. And on another note, though, I will say he did drop an exhaust nut. And as I've said in previous videos, you got to drop at least one nut. But we found it quite readily.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
One down, one to go. So this is, you're probably thinking this is an awful lot of work for just the one head gasket that appeared to be bad. However, you don't just do one head gasket. When you tear the motor down, you tear the motor down. So that's the reason both are being done. Plus the fact that he did find the head bolts were loose. So there's no telling if there could have been a compromised spot on the front cylinder or not.
So we're getting ready to torque the front head. We're running a Cometic multi-layered steel head gasket that has a little different torque procedure than a stock Harley head gasket. Initially, we're just going to tighten these head bolts down by hand and bring them down until they're bottomed. Then we'll start the torque procedure. Cometic has you do torque the head bolts in a little different way than what S&S recommends. They have you torque the heads down in stages to end up at a final torque spec of 42 foot-pounds. S&S has you use the stock Harley torque specs, torque your head bolts down as stock Harley specs, then back it off and then retorque them to that final torque spec, the Harley spec. That's what we're going to be doing today. So when we torque the head bolts down, you always start on the spark plug side of the engine first. You start with a head bolt that is the lower than the other one. So you start with this head bolt, then go to this one, and then you go to the opposite side and do the lower head bolt, and then this one. Our initial torque spec is going up to 7 foot-pounds. Once I've torqued it to the 7 foot-pounds, I go back over the bolts and make sure that the gasket hasn't compressed and change my torque reading. That one did a bit. Okay. Now we're going to go to our next setting. We're going to do 16 foot-pounds. next step is I'm going to mark my head bolts with a Sharpie, and we're going to tighten these a quarter turn more. There's my quarter turn.
So on this portion, you don't have to crisscross your torque. You just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep, and always start with the lower bolt, then go to the top one. Then on the opposite side, you do the same thing.
Top one, right.
Yep.
Just look at all the knowledge you guys are getting from watching our videos.
So now they have you back the head bolts off. And you do it in the same pattern. Back it off completely so there's no tension on it. There we go. Now we're going to leave this like this. We're going to bring put the other head on, go through the initial torque procedure, back them off, and then we'll do our final torque on both heads.
And you're on.
Okay, so now we've got both heads on. We've gone through the initial torque process on both heads. We backed them both off. Now we're doing our final torque. So we're doing our initial torque. And on this, I'm changing the numbers a little bit. I'm going to do 10 for my 10 foot-pounds for my first torque. I do 20 for my second torque, and then the quarter turn. Go back over this one more time here. Look at the change. Go next step. So I'm 20 pounds.
You get the work out too.
Yes,
You're running like
if I set my daily set down. Go back one more time, 20 pounds. We'll get ready to do our last set, which is everything to the front, so you work turn more. All bolts.
yeah, no, you set down too.
Yeah, once you do that initial crush on the head gasket, everything settles, and when we go back and double check it, it's right left it. So I always double check like that because I'm a little OCD and I gotta check twice and I'm gonna go back in. Okay, they're all torqued and ready to go.
All right, so we'll be buttoning back up the rest of it and putting all the other stuff back on it, and it'll be good to go. All right, so this is a twin cam, and there's a little tricky thing that gets done on the twin cams to quiet them down a little bit, and I'll let Dan talk about it.
So one of the complaints with the twin cams is the ticking from the valve train. And what can happen is, this is your rocker arm shaft, this is the rocker arm itself. If you look through that hole, there is a notch in the shaft.
I don't think we'll be able to get in there tight enough. We'll try. Well, maybe, maybe not. But anyway.
So the shaft has a notch in it, and when the rocker arm support bolt goes through there, that prevents this from turning. However, it can still move a bit, and when the bike warms up, if this shaft is moving back and forth, it can create quite a lot of a rattle. So there's a product called
Rocker locker, or
yes, rocker lockers. Thank you. Senior moment there. I apologize.
That's all right.
So with the rocker lockers, you have this brass bushing which you press in. So this one I'm in the process of pressing in. They give you a bolt, they give you a nut, and all you got to do is line up this shaft with the hole, tighten up the bolt, it presses this in. That prevents any movement from this rocker arm shaft while the bike is being operated.
Awesome. So that's how you get rid of some of the noise in the valve train on a twin cam. And with that, I'm going to close out the mechanical portion for today. We will be back. We're going to be back here for the tuning and the running up on this bike. I think the owner's going to be very happy once he gets it back. All right, well, we're on the way home from RDS. Dan was going to try and finish buttoning up that Ultra. And we'll go back again tomorrow and catch the startup of it, do a couple of heat cycles. Then he's going to dive into a Victory that he believes has a cracked head. I guess they were known for having head issues. So he's going to diagnose that and then find out if he's even going to be able to get parts for it. So that's the video part 1. And we'll be back with part 2 tomorrow to finish up the Ultra. And I'm going to also try and get in there when Rob does the tuning on it, so we can see what kind of numbers it makes with that S&S kit, that S&S Big Bore 107 kit. And let's see, other than that, I'll just say keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down, and since we're caging it, that should be a lot easier. Have a great day.